Okay, so this floor is going to be heated, and what I'm going to be using is Ditra Heat. And there's three components to this. It's the mat. This is the Ditra mat, but it's for the cable system, for the wires. It's in place of the regular Ditra. You use this one here, and the wires snap into these grooves. See, like in the picture here. And this is the programmable thermostat. You also have another thermostat which is not programmable. And you get it in different lengths. So this is what I'm going to be installing. This goes down like regular Ditra. Comes in panels like this, or you can get it in a 134 foot roll. I don't need 134 foot, so I got these panels in another box of it there. And there's the cable. You'll see this in a little while. So I'm going to be installing this on the floor. Okay, so I vacuumed and cleaned the floor, and now I'm going to tap one of these down. You can tap them in. Actually, you know. So when you're installing these, you want to try and make these knobs line up so it's easy to get the wire. Anyway, so I'm going to get all these down, and we'll try and make these knobs line up so that when you run the wire through, it'll be easier to run it through. So I'm going to get all this down, and then I'm going to put the wire in. Okay, so it's all cut in. I haven't cemented it down yet. So that's the next thing. Now, usually for the Ditra, you use this trowel here, but for the Ditra Heat, you use a 1/4 inch. This is a 1/4 inch by 1/4 inch square notch trowel. So this is what you use for the Ditra Heat. Okay, so I'm going to use, if I can find it, 1/4 inch square notch trowel to vent these down.
On plywood, you use, when you're putting Ditra over plywood, any kind of Ditra, you use a polymer modified thinset. Don't use a cheap one, use a good one. I typically will use either Ultraflex 2 or full flex or something of that nature. Don't use a cheap polymer modified thinset. And you always want to give the plywood a drink, and this actually serves two purposes. It dampens the floor a little bit so it won't suck the moisture right out of the thinset, and also removes any dust that might be left on the plywood. So this is actually an important step, and you would do this regardless whether it was plywood or concrete. In any case, for plywood, to install the Ditra on the plywood, you use a polymer modified thinset. To install the Ditra on concrete, you would use an unmodified thinset. So in this case, we're going over plywood, so I'm using a polymer modified thinset.
Okay, gets all the dust off, dampens the plywood, and now what's next?
So as I've said on this, for the Ditra Heat mat, I'm going to be using a 1/4" square notch trowel, and always, anytime you go over any substrate, it's always a good idea, whether you're installing tile or whatever, you should always use the flat side of the trowel first to key the thinset into the substrate. Gives you a better bond, and it will be a much better job. So always use the flat side of the trowel to key the thinset into the substrate, and then you use the notch side of the trowel to gauge out the thinset. I always do this, and it's actually a very important step. A lot of guys don't do it, but you should always do this. Also, when you're mixing the thinset to install the Ditra, you're going to mix it a little bit looser than you normally would for installing tile. It's still going to be, in other words, the thinset is going to be looser, but it's still going to be able to hold the notch of the trowel when it's spread out. So the ridges left behind by the trowel will not slump, but they will hold their shape, but it'll be not quite as stiff as you would use it for installing tile.
That's good coverage.
So you want to use what I use is a old wooden trowel to press the Ditra into the thinset. You can use a trowel, you can use a roller, but you just want to make sure that you get it well pressed into the thinset and get good coverage like I just showed you.
And this is what you want to see for coverage. Good coverage. So I'm going to do the rest of this now. Okay, so you have to stay 3 inches away from the wall, and so I've marked all that out, so you can't put any wire closer than 3 inches to the perimeter. So that's all marked out, and from a heat register you have to stay 8 inches away. So I've got that marked out. 8 inches away, 3 inches, 3 inches, 8 inches away. And then no point going under the toilet. And 3 inches away around here. So I've got that all marked out so that I know where I can't put the wire. Okay, so this is the Ditra Heat. Took it out of the box. And you get 2 probes, one here and one. You also get one in here. And both of these are going to be installed. That's the heat. These will sense the heat of the floor. And there's 2 of these. One comes with the cable and one comes with the programmable thermostat. And you install both of them, but you only connect one. So that's that. And this is the cable. I'm going to test it now with the multimeter, and all the instructions come on the book that comes with it. And where did I put it? And these labels come with the cable. And it should be, that same thing should be on the cable here as well. Right there. So I'm going to test this now. Okay, so this comes with the Ditra Heat cable. It's actually also attached to the cable right here, and then there's another one, actually 2 more here. And what you need to do is, before you install it, you need to test it to make sure that it's good. So you're going to use a multimeter, and all the directions on how to do it are right here in the book. 1, 2, 3. Pretty easy. And then you're going to record it. If you want to keep the warranty, you're going to record it on here. So the first test you do is on this one here. It's 17.9, resistance is 17.9 ohms. So it has to be within 10% of that. So put your meter on the ohms. The symbol here. And then I got it on 200 so you can read it. Right here. And that has to be within 10% of that 17.95. So you measure these 2 here. One. And so it's 18.2, if you can read that. 18.2. If you can read up there. $18.2. So that's within 10% of that 17.95. So that's good. So then the other test, you put that on the alarm symbol there. So if you touch these 2 together, and you get one on the braid and one on here, and it shouldn't beep, and it should have an eye. See that's an eye over there. That should not change. So that's not changing. So that's tested good. See, if I put these 2 together like this, then it'll beep. Okay, so that's good. So it's within the 10%. It shows an eye, depending on the meter you have. Mine shows that one there. So this test is good for this cable with this here. So I'm going to turn it off, and I'm done with this meter. Then we need the mega ohm meter, which is this one here. And this has to read between the braid and one of the wires has to read more than 1,000. Okay, so I'm gonna test it with the mega ohm meter. Has to be over 1,000. So that's a good connection there. Turn it on. And then, so we're good. So this is the sensor. One comes in the cable box, and one comes in the so you get two of these. You install both, but you only connect one. I'll test these now. So I'm going to test these now. $13.76. This one here. $13.02. Okay, so all tests were successful, and I'm going to do that again once I get the wire in the floor. And that's what I'm going to do, put the wire in the floor.
So I am not going to be doing the electrical connections. I am just going to put the wire in the floor of the Ditra Heat and leave the wires bundled for the electrician. I talked to the electrician. He came by. We went over what needs to be done. And I'm going to leave the wires right at this wall here for the electrician to connect later. But I will do all the testing as described in the book that comes with the Ditra Heat. So what I'm doing here is I am locating where the wire is going to terminate and be fished in the wall. And there's a hard plastic connector where the wire terminates to go into the wall. And what I'm doing is cutting out the detra mat, part of the detra mat, so that I can lay it into the mat and it won't be sticking too high above, so that when you tile it won't interfere with the tile and the tile can sit flat across it. They've really thought about everything on these for this Ditra Heat.
So for now I'm just going to tape that down just to hold it in place.
So when you're installing this cable, what you basically do is just push the cable uh, into the space between knobs, and it'll be held in place. It's designed so that it just fits right in and is held in place. You can push it in with your fingers, but you're better off using a wooden trowel or a rubber float just to press it right in. It actually goes in very easily, and it stays quite secure. So you don't want to use a metal trowel to do that, because you don't want to use anything that could cut the wire. And you have to stay 3 inches away from walls and 8 inches away from any heat source. So that air vent that you see there, the heat vent, the black lines which you can barely see there, are 8 inches away from that heat source. And you space the wire 3 knobs apart, or 3 of those circles in the mat, and you just lay it in, and you have to use the whole length of the cable. So when you're figuring it out, make sure you get the right size. You can't cut it, and you can't overlap or put the wires any closer than what they're supposed to be. So in this case here, I put it down, but I was left when I got to the end. I was left over with about 5 feet that I had nowhere to place it, so I had to reconfigure the wire, pull it up and reconfigure it and use it all up. So you want to make sure that you get the right size cable for your floor, because you can't cut it at all.
So I had to readjust the wire and go in the closets a little bit, because it was just a little bit too long if I didn't go in there. So this is the wire down. I'm going to put the thermostats in. Now you put both of these in, and it goes in the middle of a run. 1 in for now. And now I'll put the other one in a different spot. Okay, so I got the 2 probes in, and the electrician's, I got a hole in there, and the electrician's going to run this wire when I'm done. But right now I'm going to test them again to make sure everything is good.
As far as the programmable thermostat goes, I am not going to be connecting that. It's 120 volts that has to be connected to the cable, and so an electrician will be doing that. But I've left all the cables bundled at the wall for the electrician to come in and finish the installation of the electrical part of the installation. It's best to have a licensed electrician do that. Okay, so once you've got the wire in, you've tested it the second time, time to start laying some tile, and you just lay the tile normally how you would any other tile on any other kind of detra. And some guys like to pre-fill all the waffles on the floor and let it dry, and then come back and install the tile afterwards. If you want to do that, you can, but there's really no need for that. So you install your tile, and then you test one last time after the tile is installed. So you test it before you install it, you test it after you've laid it into the detra, and then you test it again after you've installed your tile.